It's time for GrizzBeat, a full court press of highlights, insights, news, and scoops covering the Grizzlies and the NBA. Catch up each week on the latest Grizz buzz with regional and national insiders locked in on our squad. Running point from Grind City Media Studios, our host, Jarvis Greer.
Oh, man, are we glad that is over. At least getting a win on the road. The Grizz finally take one down at Utah last night. Came from 14 down in the second quarter, come back and get a win by 37 points, 140-103. You talked about it all day long. You saw it probably last night. We'll talk about it a little bit more and a whole bunch more here on GrizzBeat today. Let's go over our panel here in studio with us at 191 Beale Street, right across from FedEx Forum. We have joining us from News Channel 3, the one and only, the pride of Miami himself, Mike Sadie. Thanks for coming in this afternoon. You got another show to do today. You ready to talk about a big Grizz victory?
Oh, you
right?
know, that's going to be a big part. It's been a while since we've been able to talk about a Grizz victory, so
Yeah.
it's nice to go back to work. And how about a swing? 14 down to 40 up.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen a 54-point swing in a game, but it was fun to see the Grizzlies get back on the win column.
Yeah, totally fun to see that. Even late night between your toes as we were looking at it on the TV last night. And, of course, as always, join us in studio for most of the season when he's not on the road with the Grizzlies. It is the guru of Grind City Media himself, the great Michael Wallace, as my grandson likes to call him. And, Michael Wallace, I know you like to go on these road trips, but, you know, this one has been particularly tough, but they finally broke through last night.
Yeah, it was a really, really tough road trip. 12 days by the time it ends on Thursday night in Oklahoma City. So 12 days away. It's, 5 games in 12 days.
Yeah.
Extended stays. I mean, they spent 4 days in L.A. So that,
Yeah.
I'm not going to complain too much about that. But, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to seeing them come back because they got a gauntlet coming back. Right here, some big-time matchups at FedEx Forum when they get back.
Yeah, it's going to be a fan's paradise with the games coming back, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's quickly run through what happened last night on the road at Utah. We got the tweet that the Grizzlies put out: 25 second chance points, 38 assists, 65 bench points from the Grizzlies last night. They said the whole squad dug deep and got the dub. And did they ever get the dub against the Jazz last night? Jazz, a shell of themselves. They only have like 16 victories on the season, but they came out on fire in the first half, and you think, wow, what's going to happen with the Grizz? Are they going to lose to the Jazz? But then all of a sudden, Desmond Bane and company, they come through in much needed fashion.
You know, when you're looking at this first quarter and a half, Jarvis, you see Utah hits 13 threes, and you're like, oh, my goodness, this is in the first half. But again, the guys locked down. That little stretch at the end of the first half when they were down double digits to get to within one. And, Jaren and Dez were doing their thing, but the job that Scottie Pippen has done filling in for the injured Ja Morant, it was just good to see him. And then that third quarter, it's something that they have struggled with all year. This is that third quarter, 41-17 in the third, and game was over.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I was particularly, impressed to see was the shooting touch came back. I mean, This is a team, as you guys, we were talking about coming into the show, 9 different guys hit at least 2 threes. They made 20 threes, 20 for 45 from three-point range, and that was missing throughout the entire course of this trip, right? They went 0-3 through the first 3 stops, losing against the Sacramento Kings, then the Portland Trail Blazers, and then the Los Angeles Clippers. And the offense just didn't find them. They had some struggles shooting the basketball, but they took the lid off the basket in Salt Lake City, man. And it was good to see them finally get some rhythm offensively because they're going to need that going into this next stretch coming up.
Yeah, Mike, you talk about the 9 guys with multiple threes. That is an NBA record in one game. It never happened in a single game where 9 different players on the same team hit multiple, not just one three-pointer, but multiple three-pointers in the game. I think you got the stat sheet there, Michael. It's like you can run down the list. And one of them wasn't Cam Spencer. He got in the game late, played 7 minutes. He was 0 for 1. Jay Huff was just 1 for 6 from downtown. Three-point shooting is his deal.
I know, that's it.
Everybody else that
guys.
took a 3 at least hit 2, and Vince Williams had 3. Good to see Vince Williams getting. And, his left leg was heavily bandaged. That's the one that he had hurt earlier, but it seemed like that seemed to help him because it looked like he was moving much more like the Vince Williams we are more accustomed to seeing.
And Michael hit it. It's like, you're 11 games before the start of the playoffs. This is when you want to be peaking, and the team's dealing with injuries. But a game like last night, where you see the ball go in the net, and you got these games coming up, starting with Oklahoma City tomorrow night, this is where you really want to start seeing shots go down because in a matter of 3 weeks, once you lose 4, you're on your way home. So it's good to see that the team was able to hit some shots.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, and I have to bring this up. Dez and Santi got a little of a dust-up on the bench, and that was in the first half when it seemed like everything Utah threw up was going in. There was a layup line, to the hole, and they finally just said, look, we got to man up. We got to spine up here and get something done, and that's when the switch started to turn. They went on that 17-4 run to end the first half, briefly took the lead. Utah got a last-second bucket to have a one-point lead at the half, but then, wow, that second quarter, they outscored them 76-38 in the second half. And you talk about get-right games. They had to have a get-right game, and they did last night.
Yeah, they had to have a get-right game. They had to have an emotional game,
turnaround.
Right? They had to have something that, where, the fans, enough is enough, right? The fans, the fans can't be more frustrated than the players,
Got
right?
that right.
This has to be something, and, you alluded to, sort of a timeout huddle. Mm-hmm. It's funny because when you watch the game and you go back and look at it, Rob Fisher, the sideline reporter, was right there in terms of seeing everything. And sometimes players get heated. They hold one another accountable.
Right.
And there's certainly room for that, if it's done in a genuine way, it's done in a constructive way. And, yes, you cannot be down by 14 against a Utah Jazz team that's frankly committing a crime against their fan base by the way that they're doing things over these last few seasons under Danny Ainge. Like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing if you're running a professional franchise and going out there and putting out those kind of rotations and intentionally. Like, that's something that I have a problem with. But from the Grizzlies standpoint, again, we know Santi is a fiery guy. We know Dez is a fiery guy. And sometimes iron has to sharpen iron in that situation. And I think it's going to be used in a constructive way, and we saw it immediately right after that.
Yeah, I like seeing emotion myself. It's something you got to plant your foot down somewhere and say, look, no more of this. We cannot have this. And I think offensively, the shots started to drop. Defensively, I thought they played much better. And I think defense is going to be the thing that carries this team over if Memphis is indeed to get a really good seeding and to continue on.
And people are going to say, oh, it was Utah. We've mentioned how kind of it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's OKC or the Jazz. This team had needed a win. It needed a pick-me-up as it goes into the stretch of games. And like I said, 11 left in the regular season. I don't care who it is. You just got to start getting some wins together. And like we said, seeing the ball drop. And you're doing this with some guys, including the guy, banged up. So it was good to see. It's good to see.
And now you go from worst in the West to best in the West.
Yeah,
right?
speaking of OKC.
Just flipping that switch.
Yeah, the Thunder is up next. And man, they've lapped the field basically in the West. They've already clinched the number one seed, and they're over 60 wins. They got the NBA's leading scorer in SGA, and he's got 4 50-point games this season. Did he get a 50 on Memphis? I know he got a 40. It was a 40-point game last time he was here. The Thunder have won 8 straight over the Grizz, averaging 25 points per game in the process. 3-0 this season. SGA is up for MVP.
Will win.
And in my opinion, he'll win over Nikola Jokic, who's having a great season, but he's on a team that's got a much better record. And they're coming up in here into FedEx Forum, and it's going to be a challenge for the Grizzlies. We don't know if Ja's going to play. The report won't come out till tomorrow night?
Tonight.
I guess it'll come out tonight.
Right.
As far as to whether or not he'll play, but Ja's out, and I think the thing with that is the fact that he is. I think they're resting all of his injuries now, not just that hamstring strain that he's got. What do you think, Michael Wallace?
I don't know if they're resting. I think he would. It's hard for him to be a leader of the team and not be able to be out there, especially coming off the game that he came off of. And we'll break down where Ja is in a second, but when you look at where the Grizzlies have come up against Oklahoma City, they've come up well short, right? Even though the games, you want them to be more competitive, they were supposed to be measuring sticks. 2 times out of the 3 that they've played so far, the Grizzlies were number 2 in the West and Oklahoma City was number 1. This won't be a 1 versus 2 matchup this time around tomorrow night here at FedEx Forum because the Grizzlies have had some slippage of late. But you want to see them be competitive. Yes. Oklahoma City has really nothing else to play for. They've clinched number 1. They're the first team to reach 60 wins, all of those things. But the Grizzlies have to show some kind of pulse. They might not win the game, but they have to show some kind of competitive spirit and a pulse against a team that everybody's going to have to go through to get a win.
Yeah, I think one of those games was within 10 points down late, but most of them have been. Oklahoma City's had
Double
pretty
figures,
much the double-figure lead throughout. And when you look at it with SGA and one of the Jalen Williams, I forget, there's two of them on that team.
The non-Arkansas Razorback.
Yeah, the
Jalen
Williams, has been kind of ailing a little bit.
The Santa Clara Jalen Williams, the All-Star Jalen Williams.
Is this the time when you think they might start, pulling a couple of players back? They've already clinched everything. What do you think, Mike?
I think they're a team that's prideful in what they've done, and SGA has something to play for to win the MVP. I think this is the time of year that, you can get a rest here and there, but you don't want to start throttling it down when you're playing as well as you are. And this is OKC, this is Memphis, two young teams that are always going to be compared to one another. OKC was like, let's get to where the Grizzlies were a couple of years ago, and now it's the Grizzlies looking up at OKC. And let's remember something. The Grizzlies really have not seen much, if any, of Chet Holmgren because he's been injured in all three of the games that they've played. So I think that's a thing that, Chet's going to want to get a chance to play it. But it is a statement opportunity with or without Ja against the best team in the West at home. You have had, like we've talked about, some of those games they've been within 5, 6, 8 in the third. See if you can play a complete game, have one of those big moments that can really give you some confidence as you go into the last 2 weeks of the season.
Take the game into the mud. Like, do something different. Don't just run out there and have a scrimmage with these guys, right? Don't make them comfortable. Give them something to think about. I'm not saying play dirty, take a cheap shot or anything like that because you don't want that to happen to your guys, right? But you got to go out there and do something where, show them that we're not just cool with y'all just cruising. And SGA just simply cruises through games on his way to 30 points.
Right.
Teams don't really they make him work hard. He's just so good that, he makes it look easy. But what the Grizzlies have to do in this matchup is to give Oklahoma City something to think about. That, hey, if we're at 4 or if we're at 8, you guys might have to see us. And if you're going to see us, this won't be a walk in the park.
No, you can't have that. And, you look at the way Oklahoma City plays, it's like they have done a good job of putting together their team and matching pieces around, a couple of star players. And they're young. They were supposed to be good a couple of years ago. They made it. Dallas, I think, put them out on their march to what they thought would be a drive to the Western Conference Finals or the NBA Finals. Then they kind of muddled around last year. Now here they're back again. And they have kind of leapfrogged the Grizzlies because the Grizzlies were on that track, and then they got derailed by injuries last year. And, who knows what could have happened had and also this year with both Gigi Jackson and Vince Williams going down with injuries in training camp or before training camp and missing, 3/5 of the season.
And if you're looking at one team in the NBA that is almost a carbon copy of the way Memphis wants to play, it's OKC. They just want to get up and down the floor, and this is a Thunder team that can do that. Not many teams can. When the Grizz are in their gear, there's not a lot of teams that can, put up number first to 135. Oklahoma City is one of those teams that can play, but all of us have seen the first 3 games. Grizzlies have got to not turn over the basketball because these guys in the open floor, you make a mistake.
Well, they're sharks.
It's 2 on the other end or 3 on the other end before you can blink. And that's how 6 becomes 16, and then you're playing upstream.
Oh, and you alluded to it. A lot of it is defense, turnovers and defense. Oklahoma City, when they're out there, we see Oklahoma City and Houston play this way. When they're out there, they're in your face dogging you all the time. We've seen Jalen Wells pick up, one player, his assignment, the whole court. Well, they have their whole team picking up that, and they are playing serious basketball. They're playing to win, not playing just to play. And the Grizzlies have got to ramp that up, where they're not playing just to play, where they're playing to win the game. And to win the game, you got to have your leader on the court. And we're going to get to the Ja Morant talk right now because he's got to be on the court. Ja's missed past 5 games with shoulder and hamstring issues. He had the surgery on the shoulder in the offseason, and then of course, during the year, he got that his hip displaced against the Lakers early. I'm still mad about that. And now they called it a hamstring stress. Now they're calling it a hamstring strain. And I think that's NBA rules. You can't just be out with a sore hamstring. It's got to be something's got to be wrong with it. So, and this late in the season, you don't want to have your star, well, maybe it's going to pull, maybe it's not. But if that thing pulls, that's 3 weeks he's out. You cannot have that. Grizzlies are 28-15, which is a .651 winning percentage this season with Ja in the lineup. The only thing is, Ja's been in the lineup, but, we played 72 games now. Out of those 72 games, only 30 have Ja, Dez, and Jaren been in the lineup together. So We got to get the band back together. They all got to be on the same tune. But he's still averaging 22.3 points a game, 7.4 assists. It's a Ja-like season. Scoring's a little down, but he's actually played better defense this year. And he's a season-high 44-point game came against the Cavs, but we haven't seen him since then. We need to see him on the court.
Right, and that's been a sore subject, literally and figuratively, right? It's been a sore subject with Ja, and we don't know. Like he's been, and that's one of the things I did miss about not being with the team on this trip here is kind of getting some perspective in terms of where this is. This clearly was never a day-to-day injury. This was something that he's now been gone. If he doesn't play tomorrow against Oklahoma City, you're talking about 2 weeks since he's played. That's a week to week. And we still don't know if it's guaranteed that he'll be back tomorrow or Saturday.
He wasn't even listed as doubtful.
Yeah, so there's a progression. And there's also a conditioning that has to go in. So some of those things is still a mystery at this point. And I understand from a fan base, it can get frustrating not knowing when you're going to have this guy, because as you can see, that 651 win percentage, and the reason why we had the winning percentage in the graphic is because that would be good enough to be second in the West right now behind Oklahoma City. So when you have Ja, you're basically where you're supposed to be and where you've been during the better stretches of your season. So we'll see where it is. We'll get some more insight, hopefully going into tomorrow's game. But certainly by the time the team comes back, Taylor will have to face the local media for the first time in 2 weeks about this.
Before we get to you, Mike, I personally think that this is just my personal opinion. The opinions of this broadcast are not doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. I personally think they're trying to make sure, okay, that hamstring is sore. We're not going to take a chance with that, but also let's rest his shoulder a little bit, and let's let this hip, get a little bit better, so that when you do come back, these other problems won't rise up. Mike Sadie,
but that's a problem. I was the first one 2-3 weeks ago that said, look, shut him down until he's healthy.
Yeah.
It's playoff time. At that time, though, the Grizzlies were in second in the West, second or third. It's hard to imagine that a team that's played so well and has been in that 2 spot for pretty much 60-70% of the season is now facing a real possibility that if they don't get it together, they're already losing home court advantage. Now they could fall into the play-in round. And one of the other things, Michael, that you had in your stat right there was, the 28 wins, the 651 winning percent. 28 is a big number in that stat, too. That's the amount of games that Ja has already missed. So when you got 28 games that you don't have your best player, you're going to have some hits. I am all for 12 being at 100% when the playoffs start. But
that's money time.
The idea was, when I said it, was that they weren't going to fall from 2, maybe 2 to 3, 2 to 4. You're talking about sitting 5, and there's 11 games, and there's not much discrepancy between 2 and 8 in the Western Conference standings.
And 7 is the play-in line. Right. 7 is the play-in
line. You got to play.
So, and you play the teams that are between you.
Is that the Clippers right now? Is that where the Clippers?
It's usually Clippers, Minnesota. So basically right behind you, 6, 7, 8. Basically is Golden State, Minnesota, Clippers, right? Yeah. So one of those teams is going to end up in the play-in, right? Yeah. One of those teams is definitely going to end up in two of them are going to end up in the play-in from that standpoint. And if you're the Grizzlies, you play those teams. You just lost to the Clippers. You got Golden State next week. You play Minnesota before the season ends. And then you still got L.A., which is a team you're a percentage point ahead of right now. So they play a lot of these teams that they're going to be jockeying with. And that's why, Ja's presence can be key. And to figure out, like if all right, Ja's going to get 2 more weeks. And you're going to say, okay, let's rev him up for the last 4 games of the regular season going into the playoffs and see what we need. Then you have an understanding. That helps everybody sort of reset what their roles are going to be and those kind of things. But we just don't know. And unless the Grizzlies know and aren't telling, that's another situation right there. But you want Ja to be as healthy as possible, because when he is healthy, the Grizzlies are a different team. They're just a different kind of
that 651 winning percentage totally tells it. And if you get everybody on the court, that's even that much better. And speaking about having somebody that's been on the court for most of the season, that is the Grizzlies' leader in the middle, Jaren Jackson Jr., and he has done something that no one has done before. Take a look at what Jaren has done. He is the NBA's first player with 4 straight seasons of 100 points, 100-plus three-pointers made, and 100-plus blocks. The true unicorn, Jaren Jackson Jr. He reached the season 65-game play plateau on Tuesday against the Jazz. Now, does that count? I think he's got a game in there where he only played like 2 minutes, and that was the game he hurt his ankle. And is he there now with the 65 games, or because I think you have to play 20 minutes in a game.
I mean,
to get it.
he'll be there.
So,
Like,
yeah,
one
but
way or
he's going to
another,
make it
he'll be there.
one way or another. So
Right.
he's already set himself up for all the after-season accolades. All NBA and defensive player of the year. He leads the Grizzlies in scoring at 22.4, just ahead of John Morant. He leads in blocks with 1.6 a game and steals. He's tied at 1.3 per game. Jaren Jackson Jr. is just. I mean, what else can you say about the guy? And he is a player that had injury issues early in his career, and now we see what he's become, Mike Sadie.
He's one of those guys that it's just a tough guard because when he came in as a rookie, his first couple of years, he loved standing out there at the perimeter and being a 7-foot 3-point shooter. But now he understands that left hand is lethal, and he's decided that, hey, I'm going to put it on the floor and I'm going to make you guard me, and then I'm bigger than you. I'm going to back you down, and I can also score that way as well. So he has had the kind of season you really were expecting him to have because his progressions every year have been, steadily increasing. And this is one of those years that I'm just so thankful that he got to 65 because there's no way he's not one of the top 15 players in the NBA. If this is a guy that doesn't get all NBA, you could say what you want about defensive player there. There's some guys playing great, but he should and will and better get first, second, third team all NBA. Probably not first, obviously, but third team all NBA, that's definitely Jaren Jackson Jr.
Which brings us to one of the favorite segments that we've started on GrizzBeat, our 24-second validation. This week's 24-second validation is, what do you think the Grizzlies' playoff seed will be? You have 24 seconds to argue your point, and we will start with who we just ended with.
Okay.
Mike Sadie from News Channel 3. You're on the clock, 24 seconds. Bam!
This team has been the second seed all year, but unfortunately injuries have taken their toll. We don't know where John Morant is going to be, and unfortunately I don't see this team having home court advantage in the first round, but I also don't see them falling to the play-in. So if you do the math, the 5 or 6 seed, I'll go with where they've been for a while as the 5 seed. But don't forget, 3, 4, and 5 were tied in the loss column. So what do you know?
All right, gets it in with a couple of seconds to spare. Mike
I want
Sadie
to make sure to give you guys a
done.
couple extra seconds if you need it.
That's
There you
really
go.
good,
There
and
you
that was
go.
a well-thought-out answer. We got to go now with the guru himself, Michael Wallace of Grind City Media. What say you about where the Grizzlies will end up? What seed will they get? 24 seconds on the clock. Go.
It's a tough stretch. These last 10 games, the Grizzlies face 8 teams that are still fighting for something in the playoffs right now. One of those teams is the Charlotte Hornets. They're fighting for the lottery. The other team that has nothing left to play for is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Everybody else is somebody that's playing for something. I think the Grizzlies will go in at the number 6 seed. I hate to be detrimental with that, but I don't know where Ja is right now. The 6-3 is going to be their matchup.
All right, he says a 6. Oh, ye of little faith. Guru of Grind City Media. Now it's my turn. What seed do I think they will get, the Grizzlies? Start the clock right now. All right. Mike Sadie, you said a 5. Is that what you said?
5 or 6, but
5 or
I
6.
slid to 5.
The guru of Grind City Media says a 6 seed, just ahead of the play-in line. Jarvo, in his magnificent wisdom, the Grizz are going to get a 3 seed, folks. All these teams around Memphis, you look at their records the last couple of weeks, they're not doing anything either. Grizz going up. All right. I put it on the line. Like you do with the Grind City Media poll for what it is. I'll put it on the line.
So you got 3, 5, and 6.
3, 5, and 6.
All right.
It could happen.
There are a lot of the play-in, so that's good. At this stage of the season, that's good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had to think about it, though, because, again, 11 games, you talk about the stretch.
Well, it's 10 now. 10.
Oh, okay.
10 games left.
Yeah.
There's not a dime's worth of difference.
They're going to earn wherever they go.
What is it, between 2 and 6? 2 and 7, and what is there, a game and a half?
I think 2 and 8 was 4.5 games going in
From 2 to
last night.
5 is 3 games.
2 to 5
2 to 5 is 3 games. Houston is pulling away a little bit now. They have a 2 game. So 2 to 5 is 3 games. And then when you go 2 to 7, you're talking 5.
All right.
But again, 3, 4, and 5 at the beginning of last night all had 28 losses.
Yes.
So they were
Yes,
all
3, 4, and 5
tied.
is like a-
so
yeah, a half
you
a
mentioned
game.
Denver,
Yep.
the Lakers, and Memphis are all had 28 losses, and Memphis didn't get number 29. So that's good.
That's
so
good.
there's a lot to be determined in this last 3 weeks.
It's going to be fun as we go down the stretch run of the season. Right now, we're going to take a break on GrizzBeat. When we come back, we're going to have a national sports writer in with us to talk a little bit about the entire NBA and more. That's coming up next on GrizzBeat.
Let's face it, there's a lot of trash talk in basketball, but the great teams let their performance do the talking. Like Ford F-150 with Pro Power on board. A class-exclusive industry-first feature that turns your truck into a mobile generator and leaves the competition speechless. Ford F-150, official truck of the Grizzlies. Greatness starts here at your Mid-South Ford dealer. Class is full-size pickups under 8,500 pounds, GVWR.
Kroger shoppers and Grizz fans, want exclusive last-minute discounted ticket deals texted straight to you during the Grizzlies 2024-2025 season? Sign up with the new Kroger Buzzer Beater deal. Fans can sign up by texting Grizz to 636-479 or visit your local Kroger store in the Delta Division and scan the QR code. By signing up, you agree to receive recurring automated promotional and personalized marketing text messages from the Memphis Grizzlies. Consent is not a condition of any purchase. Message frequency varies. Message and data rates may apply.
Shinedown. Dance Kid Dance Tour. Live in Memphis. FedEx Forum, Saturday, August 30th. With special guests, Bush and Morgan Wade. Get tickets now at livenation.com. Shinedown, live in concert. For more, visit shinedown.com.
We are in March, which is Women's History Month. True. And we were talking about how do we kick off the show? What can we talk about? And we were like, why don't we talk about women's shoes? The Sabrina one. Okay.
Can't go wrong.
Right?
That's a good shoe.
And the two, you could argue, is even better. But the one's
you can't
fine.
have the two without the one.
Yeah.
Though.
In the month of February, the Sabrina 2 was the second most worn shoe in the NBA in minutes played. The Sneak Fest Show, live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on Grind City Media on X, YouTube, and the official Grind City Media mobile app.
Hey, Grizz fam, hop on your bike. Yeah, get it out of the garage, oil it up, and get ready to go and race to enter the 2025 Tour de Grizz. It's presented by Ortho South. Join other Grizz fans, including my wife anyway. We'll be out there riding around at the River Garden Park on Sunday, April 13th for a family-friendly bike ride along the Mississippi River before the Grizzlies take on the Dallas Mavericks at 2:30 p.m. Registration includes a Tour de Grizz t-shirt while supplies last and a ticket to the game as well. So secure your bike storage during the game. They'll have it all right here for you at FedEx Dorm. Join the ride today. All you got to do is go to grizzlies.com/tour.
Welcome back to GrizzBeat, and this is the time of the show where we go around the league. We bring in a national voice, and this week I'm honored, man. It's a pleasure to bring in one of the hardest working NBA reporters for ESPN, one of the hardest working NBA reporters across the league, bar none. Tim MacMahon, ESPN senior NBA reporter. And usually you can find Tim on any sideline or any press box or media row seats around the league. But right now you can find him coming up for air because this week his book finally dropped. It's the Luka Doncic, the Wonder Boy Luka Doncic and the Curse of Greatness. This is a book he had to put a lot of work in at the beginning and at the end. When Luka got traded, he had to redo or add a chapter towards the end. Let's bring in Tim MacMahon. Tim, thank you so much, man. You're no stranger to this studio, to the Grizzlies, to Grind City Media. You've been around us for a long time, man. Welcome aboard, and thank you so much for joining us.
Howdy, partners. I appreciate you having me. I could use a little bit of that Wiseacre product you've got behind you there after this run. A little plot twist at the end, not to spoil the end of the book, but yeah, things changed a little bit in the early days of February after writing this whole thing about the pressure on an NBA franchise when you draft a prodigy through the prism, obviously, of Luka and the Mavericks. But hell of a way for the story to end, that's for sure.
Yeah, Tim. So just take us. We'll start there before we go around the league, man. This relationship that you've been able to establish with Luka and the team around him began at the very beginning, going into the draft that led to Luka going to the Dallas Mavericks after being traded in that swap with the Atlanta Hawks. What's made this story one that resonates throughout the book in terms of how you've tried to organize this book and how you've chronicled it? Because you've started from the very beginning and took us all the way through up until this trade to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, and certainly the relationship with Luka I would describe as one that was at arm's length. He's not a guy who wants to do a lot of extra media, never really embraced that, which is, the right of a player. And look, there were times that we butted heads, And, there's times he's publicly called me out because I'm not only covering the spectacular talent, but I'm covering the whole story. The flaws, the diet, the conditioning, sometimes the petulance. Now, what I never imagined is those flaws would lead the Mavericks after 6.5 seasons to decide to trade the guy. The As I'm writing this book, for a while I thought it might end in a trade because I thought the Mavericks might fail to build the kind of team around him that would give him any hope of winning in Dallas. They succeeded in that mission despite all kinds of twists and turns and frankly drama dysfunction within the franchise. They were fresh off a finals berth. He led the league in scoring last year, averaged almost a triple double. And before the next trade deadline, they dump him. So it's like I said, I didn't anticipate it ending this way. That's not an ending that I could have ever imagined. But sometimes fact is better than fiction.
Tim, Mike Sadie again, and thanks for being here with us. But as we switch gears and talk about the NBA right now, the Grizzlies dealing with injuries, dealing with trying to stay out of the play-in. The huge news last night was Milwaukee, and they're trying to stay above that cut line for the play-in, and the loss of Dame Lillard with those blood clots. How much does this, obviously it impacts them a lot, but how does it impact them over the next couple of weeks as they try to solidify their spot like the Grizz in the East without their top shooter?
Well, yeah, obviously this is a massive blow, and this is, the Bucks are a team that went out and traded for Dame, hoping he could be the final piece to the second championship puzzle of the Giannis era. Frankly, they've been a pretty significant disappointment. Still a team that I think you had to take seriously as a potential threat in the Eastern Conference, but certainly a big cut below the Boston Celtics, the Cleveland Cavaliers. We will see if Dame's able to get back at all this season. If not, I can't imagine the Bucks being much more than first round fodder. Never say never when you have a guy like Giannis. I mean, he is capable of carrying a team to a playoff series win. But I think like that's the ceiling. And even with Dame, look, they'll have to pull off a major upset to get out of the second round because they're going to run into one of those teams that is top tier in the Eastern Conference.
This is Jarvis Greer here. Tim, thank you so much for being on because you are a star in your own right. Got to get that book. But talking about Dallas, on Dallas's side, after they let go Luka, then they bring in Anthony Davis, and boom, he gets hurt right away. Dallas fans ready to jump off. If they had bridges in Dallas, I know it's landlocked. They don't really jump off the AT&T Cowboy Stadium or something or other. But he is now saying he's back ready to go. And, he put out a tweet there, and there's a bunch of guys starting to come back for this last 10-game stretch. Do you think AD's got enough to get Dallas there? And what have you been able to gauge how the fans are kind of like trying to turn their way away from Luka and wanting to kill the owners of the franchise and get back behind the Mavs for this stretch run?
Well, certainly the fan base was heartbroken, outraged. I think that outrage is starting to turn into apathy, and that's never what you want with a fan base. And look, none of this is about Anthony Davis. Like, this is a top 75 all-time player, but they thought they could have Luka for his entire career. He hasn't even hit what should be his prime years. We're talking about a perennial MVP candidate that you punted out of town and then frankly shamed on the way out. So I don't know that the fan base is recovering from this anytime soon. And as far as like the Mavericks' hopes of contending, look, realistically and unfortunately, those ended when Kyrie Irving hurt his knee. Kyrie's not coming back this season. We'll see, how much this impacts him going into the next season. And, Anthony Davis is coming back. More power to him. There were people within the organization who, frankly, encouraged him to shut it down for the season. He's too proud, too much of a pro to do that. But they're fighting to get in the play-in, and they're not a team that has any chance of making a run in the Western Conference without Kyrie. That's just the reality of the situation. And honestly, for the fan base, there's probably only going to be one sellout the rest of the season, and that's when Luka and the Lakers come to town on April 9th.
Wow. When you look at it with Dallas is a big market, right? If they'd have done something like that in Memphis, they ship out John Morant, I don't know that the city could recover, and I don't know that the team would recover. Do you think they could pull off a move like that because Dallas is such a big market? They got like 6 million people, 7 million people in the Metroplex, and they got all those other sports, and that they can, just kind of let it gloss over after a while?
In terms of the Mavericks fan base, like I said, this is not like, hey, they'll get over it. This is one that's going to sting for probably forever, just to be honest with you. And the Mavericks didn't want to give Luka the Supermax. They thought that would be a bad investment. They believe that his body is going to break down in what should be his prime years. I think it's flawed logic. I think you supermax him, and if you still feel the same way in a year and a half, you announce to the league, highest bid gets Luka Doncic, and create the biggest bidding war probably in NBA history. That's not the way they went about things. And I don't think Patrick Dumont, the governor of the team, who's had control of the franchise for about a year, I don't think he had any clue about the financial ramifications of this. Luka's Supermax will look like a bargain when you compare it to the revenue the Mavericks are going to lose over the next 5 years.
That's amazing. That's amazing right there, because this is not just a spur of the moment trade. There's a trickle down effect that impacts in the franchise and impacts the league, certainly the Western Conference. And it looks like Luka can enjoy, at least for now, being in the midst of a Lakers franchise that embraces him. One of the greatest players of all time, if not the greatest player of all time, and LeBron James has opened his arms up to him and wants to see him succeed too. So Luka does have a soft landing spot, and he can really rebuild his image as well too. Because frankly, Tim, as you've pointed out, he also has some things to work on when it comes to not everything that everyone says about someone is true, but there is a little bit of truth in something that had gone on in terms of what's come out of Dallas in that regard. How do you think Luka is going to respond to some of the criticism, and fair criticisms, constructive criticism that has been laid out in this?
Well, certainly they didn't ship him to Siberia, right? As you said, the Los Angeles Lakers is not a bad franchise to end up with. I don't think they're going to have any problem recruiting talent to play with him there in sunny Southern California. And I don't even know if it's rehabbing his image. He has obvious flaws. And these are things that, look, if the diet, conditioning, the discipline on that side of things doesn't lock in after this kind of a slap in the face, it probably never will. Having said that, dude, it's been an issue throughout his career. He's a 5-time first-team All-NBA selection who's yet to hit his prime yet. I mean, he averaged 34, 10, and 9, led the league in scoring, and then took a team to the finals last year. So can he get better? Yeah, but he's pretty damn good as it is.
Definitely, man. And we'll get you out of here on this. I wanted to give you a chance to pub the book. You can find it wherever you find books, whether it's in the digital copy format, Barnes & Noble, all of the places, Amazon, it's everywhere. But Tim, just, last plug for you on your book, such a remarkable job. I can't imagine how much of your time has been invested in this. You have some beautiful daughters who are growing up as well, too. You're trying to do a lot of other things. You have the Hoop Collective podcast. You're in all of these arenas, man. What has this last 2 years been like with this project? And then where can people find the book and go ahead and get it part of their order and download it or whatever else they need to do to get it?
I tell you what, man, if the Grizzlies ever get rid of you, you can come be my agent. Damn, you're good at that. I like all that. Like, man, I can't say it any better. But no, it's been a summer project, and then smack dab in the middle of the season, I certainly had to add that last final chapter. It's been an interesting and fun professional challenge. I hope people see it as a fair, accurate, entertaining portrayal of one of the most fascinating, phenomenal talents in the NBA, and the franchise that drafted him and somehow successfully managed to build a contender around him before reversing direction on that. And you can, as you said, you can find it wherever you find your books, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, your friendly neighborhood bookstore, wherever you like to find your books. But I really appreciate you guys having me, and hope to run into you come playoff time.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You won't be covering the Mavs though by the end.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think I'm getting any home games this year. I'll be on the road a lot.
Thanks a lot, man. We're looking forward to seeing you.
What's good is everything. Memphis, we know there's something good going on
Right.
because he only goes to the bigger stories of the
Yes,
league,
yes,
and we've
yes.
seen him over the last couple of years in Memphis for
Especially this time of year. So we look forward to seeing you hopefully in the playoffs, and the Grizzlies can turn around their finish to the season as well, too. Tim MacMahon, thank you so much, man. Go get the book. It's the Wonder Boy, Luka Doncic and the Curse of Greatness. Up to the minute coverage of Luka Doncic and everything that's gone on in his career by the guy who's been there since day one of Luka coming into the States and becoming such a force, a phenomenal force. Jaren Jackson Jr. was also in that draft as well, too. Thanks a lot, Tim. Good to see you, man, and we'll catch you down the road.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Adios, amigos.
All right.
All righty. You know a little bit about that curse of greatness, don't you,
Ooh,
Guru?
man.
You've had your chance to shine.
No, never that. The curse of mediocrity. the curse of getting this tuition paid. That's about all it came down to.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
One thing that we didn't talk to Tim about it, and ever since the trade happened, is are we sure that Luka stays in LA? Imagine if he decides that this is great, but I can go somewhere else. He's still got an opportunity.
It will be a first. It will be a first.
LA's idea is LeBron on his way out. We got the next star
to
in
build
LA.
this around.
But
what I'm saying is
sure?
that normally, I mean, whether it's Wilt Chamberlain, whether it was Kareem, whether it was Shaq or anybody, you get to LA.
Kobe.
Right?
That's where you want to get.
Kobe was drafted by them,
Yeah.
basically.
No, Kobe was Charlotte.
Well,
They
I mean,
traded to get him.
they manipulated the draft
Yeah,
to
they
get him
did.
to go to LA. So that was already a done deal. Most
That's
guys,
Jerry
once
West.
you get there, they don't want to leave.
No.
He would be one of the first guys to do it the other way. If you don't want to be in LA, where else do you want to be? Other than New York. Maybe that's the other place, but if you're Luka, that's certainly a question you have to ask. But from coast to coast, we also have you covered with this week's GrizzBeat poll of the week. We always go week to week in terms of where this thing lines up. The NBA Power Poll rankings that I put together each week is right there. The Thunder jumped up and took over. Well, they're back-to-back weeks. First team to 60 wins right there. The Celtics actually jumped the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers won 16 straight, including the 16th win, which was here against the Grizzlies, then lost 4 straight, and now they're trying to recover from that as well, too. They're at 3. The Rockets are one of the hottest teams in the league right now, won 9 out of their last 10. They've regained their form that they had earlier this season. The Pacers are coming on strong as well. They're getting healthy. The Nuggets without Jokic, but he should be back this weekend. We'll see what they do. The Warriors right there, Steph Curry, projected to be back this coming weekend from that pelvic injury. The Knicks are still without Jalen Brunson. They're reeling right now a little bit. The Clippers have their own. They had a chance to beat Oklahoma City and gave it away towards the end. And the Grizzlies, by way of beating the Utah Jazz to end that 3-game losing
Barely
e-
eked their way
e-
held
in.
on to number 10. I gave them a little bit of grace and mercy right there without Ja Morant. That's the top 10, guys. What do you guys see that you like, love, hate, despise, or whatever? Right, wrong?
Jason Tatum, that ankle injury now,
Yeah.
do they shut him down for the rest of the regular season? Yeah, this is those time of years. I hear people joke around it all the time. It's like, put your players in bubble wrap.
Yeah,
put
bubble
your players
wrap.
in bubble wrap. Well, that's what the Grizzlies were looking to do with Ja a few weeks ago. Let him heal up, and then you can tumble very quickly. We know what the elite teams are. They're right there at the top of your list. The Thunder, the Celtics, and the Cavs. But yeah, Rockets are playing well. Guys are dealing with injuries. A lot to be determined in these last couple of weeks.
You look at the standings there, and the Grizzlies have a better record than 3 other teams that are ahead of them in there, and it's mostly because of what they did earlier in the season and the way they played lately, why they're at number 10. But the biggest question, can they get that back? Can they recapture it? And, if they get Ja back and he's healthy, ready to go, Dez, he got popped in the mouth. I don't think that'll keep him out of the next game. Utah, he sat out mostly
Jaren, yeah. Okay.
Tripp sat out most of the second half of that game last night.
But he was on the bench with
and he was
smile,
smiling.
so
He
that's
was
good to know.
smiling. So I think he'll be back. Dez has been playing well. If they just get that back, and the little dust up thing where they showing some emotion, if they go ahead and play it emotionally, they can work their way back up this poll. Not a lot of time left. Only 10 games left in the regular season, but it's enough. I think we were talking to a break. What is there? 3.5 game difference between 2 and 7. Is that what it is?
It's 3 between 2 and 5.
It's 3 games between 2 and 5.
2 and 5. Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
it's 5 games between 2 and 7.
and the Grizzlies are playing teams that are like, oh wow,
All of
goodness
them are right
gracious.
there. Yeah.
They're all right
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
it's right there in front of them. So we'll see what happens.
We'll definitely see what happens, and when we come back on the other side of the break, we'll wrap up GrizzBeat by looking at the week ahead and also some interesting features, including a cover boy for the Memphis Grizzlies when we get back to GrizzBeat.
Our fans have a huge impact on our ability to play to the level that we're striving for.
Drop off, Morant. Oh! Well, you wanted home crowd involvement.
I love those moments where you see our guys engaging in the fans, and the fans just get pumped up.
They are standing in FedEx Forum.
I would hate to be on the other side with the opposition when FedEx Forum's rolling. That's such an unbelievable relationship that our group has with our fans.
When it's all on the line, you turn to the strong, the stable, the unwavering, to those with a history of raising their performance to meet the moment. It's true in basketball. It's true in banking. Grizzlies checking from Pinnacle. Play hard, bank easy. Open a Grizzlies checking account with at least $100 and a recurring direct deposit by August 31st, and you could receive a $200 direct deposit bonus into your account. Details at grizzliesbanking.com. Member FDIC.
Thanks for showing up, Memphis. Nothing beats catching your Grizzlies IRL, and nobody knows that better than you. So next time you want to hit up a game, Ticketmaster's got your back with tickets to every upcoming matchup. Whether you're catching the Grizzlies at home or on the road, you'll find tickets at Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the Memphis Grizzlies and the NBA. Keep putting that jersey collection to use and get Grizzlies tickets today. There's no better brag than saying you saw it live. See you courtside again soon, Memphis.
Debo traded from San Francisco to the Commanders for a 5th round pick. There's no other sport where you would get a player of his ilk for a 5th round pick.
Over under total yards for Debo. If they set it at 1,000, you think he hits that over?
Total yards?
Total yards from scrimmage. Total yards.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The Odds Couple, live at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Welcome back, everybody. This is our final segment here on GrizzBeat. As I look across there, I see beautiful FedEx Forum. I see the plaza behind me. The sun is out. The Grizzlies are going to be coming back home after, though, they got one more game on the road, and that is at Oklahoma City. Take a look at the week ahead for the Grizzlies. You got the Thunder coming up on Thursday night, 7 o'clock. And then, man, look at this 3-game homestand for the Grizzlies. 3 of the greatest names in all of sports, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Boston Celtics, and the Golden State Warriors. They will all 3 visit FedEx Forum right here in Memphis, Daddy. And you want to make sure that you got your face in the place for that. LeBron and the Lakers, and now Luka and the Lakers here on Saturday night. Boy, that's going to be hopping on Beale Street around the arena. Monday night, you got the Celtics, and we don't know if Jason Tatum will be back. He sprained his ankle. They could hold him out in that game. Steph Curry is supposed to return to the Warriors lineup on Friday, and then they come to Memphis on Tuesday. That will be a pivotal game, as each and every one of them will be, Mike saying.
When you got a team behind you in the standings, you got to keep them behind you.
Yes.
We got some good news yesterday when Jimmy Butler made his return to Miami, and the Heat, as bad as they've been playing, knocked off the Warriors. So again, a little Memphis wins, Golden State loses, so that one game becomes 2 games now. You'll take anything right now. If Steph wants to, if he needs another day off, even though the fans want to see him play, by all means, make it Tuesday night. But you do want to play against the best, and this is a Grizzly team that needs to be playing its best against the best, and we'll know a lot about them between Thursday and Tuesday with those 4 games.
And here's why the 6th seed is so important. I mean, it's almost more coveted than the 4-5, really, because you buy yourself a week off. And all of those teams that we're talking about, the Lakers can use some time. LeBron still has the groin, right? If you get 6, you get a week off because the play-in has to play out before you start your first-round series. Golden State Warriors, they can use a week of rest with all of those veterans. So there's going to be a race for that 6, you know what I mean, just as much as it's going to be a race for everything above there. And if you're the Grizzlies, I see that a part of that schedule is 3 games in 4 nights. That means it's a back-to-back Monday, Tuesday, Boston, Golden State. So availability is going to be an issue in terms of how you play back-to-backs anyway from that standpoint. So you can't ask, well, you could ask for an easier schedule. But that's a tough gauntlet right there. And I'm not even sure if I'm sure you wouldn't have wanted all 3 of those teams bunched up in that same order if you're the Grizzlies and you looked at that schedule. That had to be tough.
But you mentioned, even if we get Ja back, let's say best thing is 8 o'clock tonight, the Grizzlies say Ja's going to play. Mm-hmm. Does he really go in a stretch of 3 games in 4 days this late in the season, having not played in almost 2 weeks? Is he going to play in all 3 of those games on the home floor?
No.
It's tough to see that happening if he returns.
Well, it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened all season, right? Ja hasn't played back-to-backs for months now. Vince Williams Jr. hasn't played back-to-back since he's come back. That's something that you have to understand, and that's just part of it. You don't want to risk it at this point, especially, it's going to be tough. This is the toughest closing 10 games that you could have imagined.
And another thing, Ja coming back, he's probably going to be on a minutes restriction because he's been out 2 weeks, basically. They're not going to come out there and play him 38 minutes or 31 minutes in his first game back, I don't believe. But I do think, though, on a silver lining, as far as I'm concerned, my favorite player, Lamar Stevens, might come off the injury list and might be back out there on the court. He was doubtful for the last game. I would imagine he would be listed as questionable for Thursday night after having 3 days rest, and he may play. And that brings some more toughness to the roster, which the Grizzlies definitely need at this point.
Well, Lamar Stevens is the guy that you can fill in those minutes where you're trying to find what you need with Brandon Clark being out.
Right.
He's another tough, rugged, switchable defender. He knows how to move his feet out in the paint. He's not as big or as explosive as Brandon Clark is, but he's certainly a guy. If he can get that shoulder right, he might have a chance.
And before we close this out on a lighter note, I'm going to say one more thing. I'm going to ask you one more thing. We had Marvin Bagley was on concussion protocol there for a while, and I was looking through Twitter and I go, hey, what the heck are they doing in practice? Are they beating each other up? But because he hasn't really played but just a few games since he's been on the roster. With Brandon Clark now out, and we miss BC. Hopefully the BC bounce will come back strong next season. When you look at Marvin Bagley, does he have a chance to help this team? If you get out of concussion protocol and you can get him on the floor, and if he plays, we saw with John Morant in the lob, that could be a factor for this team.
I mean, it's tough to see it because we hadn't seen it in such a short amount of time, a lot of games, and he doesn't have a whole lot of experience with these guys yet. He's still trying to find his way. So, it's tough to say, hey, let's see where he is.
I'm looking for silver linings.
I think I continue to hope for Jay Huff. Continue to hope for Jay Huff. And
I say play Jay Huff. I mean, I don't care
continue
now.
To hope for Jay Huff.
Him.
I think Lamar Stevens is reasonable to say, hey, if you get an emergency, can he play? And then you also have to look at Zach Edey and say, okay, man, this has to be the best stretch that you played.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And again, this is the type of year where for a team that plays 12 guys, the playoffs you start cutting down your rotations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So a guy that has not been able to really find his flow and is joined it so late, I just don't know how much you can bank on that. But the last thing I want to say is that of Ja's injuries, everybody says no hamstring. I'm more concerned about his shoulder because remember, he's taken a hit on that shoulder after it's been okay, and he's
taken a while to come back.
He's managed it. It's been something he's managed.
But he's played through it. But a bad right shoulder for a player like John Morant is tough to go by. So hopefully both are settled by the time the playoffs roll around.
Well, let's hope that's settled, and let's hope that everything will work out for the Grizzlies. One thing that a lot of kids always think about, they want to be, when they're playing out in the driveway and they're shooting hoops off the garage and everything, they want to be, hey man, the spotlight's on me. I want to be able to be the one that does it. Well, the Grizzlies have somebody that has graced the cover now of Slam magazine. That is Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. There it is right there in that mode, folks. Triple J has been just doing it this year. I think he is a lock for one of the All-NBA teams, maybe in the running still for Defensive Player of the Year, but it's something to see him on the cover. It's a great thing for him and the Grizzlies, and he had a little bit of this to say about being on the cover of Slam magazine.
Every kid's dream is to be in Slam or on the cover, and the fact that I've even been able to have this chance is crazy. I knew what I could do defensively in terms of blocking shots and stretching the floor. In AAU, I was always playing with really good players in high school too, so I needed to find a way to be effective, and I was just blocking shots. Yeah, it was just fun, making people feel bad, for real.
That's Jaren Jackson Jr. on the cover of the current Slam magazine.
I like that
right
suit
now.
too, man.
Make sure you go out and check that edition out. Great interview. Lang Whitaker, shout out to Lang Whitaker for conducting the interview right there as well. And Jaren Jackson Jr. is a great ambassador for the Grizzlies, both on the court and off the court. Off the court recently, he was one of the players that stepped up and had a chance to spend some time with some media students from Jackson State University. We brought them in as the Memphis Grizzlies and Grind City Media as we hosted them for an externship where they got hands-on experience to know what it's like to go behind the scenes of an NBA franchise and all of the departments that go into putting on the show that we see night in and night out here at FedEx Forum. Take a look at our feature with Jackson State University students.
Today it's all about the Memphis Grizzlies and Grind City Media opening up our arms, our professionalism, our experiences to Jackson State University for another 2025 externship. And what this is all about is giving Jackson State faculty, students, and everyone that's in that program an opportunity to work side by side with our multiple departments, everyone from ticket sales and MVPs all the way up to our executive levels, Grind City Media, our broadcast partners, our on-air personalities, our behind-the-scenes personalities, sales and marketing staff. The Jackson State group is going to touch every single part of our departments so that they can have a hands-on experience and learn what it's about to be a professional with a sports organization.
We learn something new every time we come here. And when we see that look in a student's eye that says, this is what I want to do, I want to be these individuals. And when the individuals take out of their professional time to really come and talk to the students, it means the world to our students. It means the world to our program.
The panel was really, really great. Just to see people who are doing potentially what I want to do, it was very inspiring to hear their stories. And what resonated with me was that they looked like me, they came from where I came from. And it just gave me motivation to I could do it too.
I feel like this opportunity is one of the best opportunities that I've been able to experience here at Jackson State University. It has allowed me to be in this position to be successful, and I have to put in the work as well. It's not going to become easy every day. If you can, or if you have the interest to, I feel like you should definitely pursue what you want to do, because you could potentially be in my position right now doing this exact same thing, getting the knowledge to be better in life.
It's a mission and it's a passion of mine. As an HBCU guy myself, I know how important it is to establish these on-ramps to give us opportunities and also to give us hope that what we say we want to do in college and what we want to do as a career is within our reach. And with the Grizzlies, Grind City Media, and Jackson State working together, it is definitely within the reach.
And just another great example of the Grizzlies outreach, not just in the local community, but in the Mid-South region at large. And it's a great thing that the Grizzlies are doing to get everybody in the whole area involved. Now let's just hope Jackson State comes back for the Southern Heritage Classic, right? All right, I got that plug in. I want to say this. We've had a great time on GrizzBeat today. We want to thank Mike Sadie from News Channel 3 for coming in. I know you're getting ready to head down to the workhouse right now, right?
I love this hour with you guys whenever I get a chance to do it, so thank you.
All right, very good. And as always, the guru of Grind City Media himself, the great Michael Wallace, as my grandson likes to call him. And man, these next 4 games are just going to be crazy. It's great to be a Grizz fan at this time because you see your team and you see the best in the NBA coming into the city.
Yeah, no question about it, man. There's going to be some great giveaways, too, in these next 3 home games. There's going to be a Grizzlies watch. There's going to be a Jaren Jackson Jr. Slam hoodie for the first 3,000, 5,000, 3,000 or 5,000, but be in that 3,000 number just to make sure over these next couple of games coming up too. So be on the lookout with everything that's going on with the Grizzlies coming into this homestand.
Yeah, the NBA, the greatest sport in the world, coming right here in Memphis. The Grizzlies, our team, is playing against the Boston Celtics, the Golden State Warriors, the Los Angeles Lakers, right here in FedEx Forum. We want to see you there, and we want to see you back here on next Wednesday. Got to thank CJ behind the glass. CJ, behind the glass. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Yeah. Join us back here at 2 o'clock next Wednesday. Until then, we'll see you and go Grizz.
That's game. Thanks for running with us for another episode of GrizzBeat. Join us each Wednesday at Grind City Media for all the latest insight and analysis on the Grizzlies.